In this video, I'll be reviewing the Pentax SMC FA31mm f1.8 Limited on my A7s. So it's the Lunar New Year, or Tet as they call it here in Vietnam. And I'm here visiting my friends and family. So I figured, while I'm here, why don't I review a lens? And boy do I have a good lens today. This is the Pentax SMC FA31mm f1.8 Limited. And if you have never heard about this lens before, well, let's just say it has legendary status in the Pentax community. It was released back in 2001, and as of this review, it's still in production. So you can get one brand new. Which means that technically, this isn't a vintage lens, but it sure has the stylings of one. I mean, just look at it. It has a body that's completely made out of metal. And it even has a clicky aperture ring. Unlike most vintage lenses, however, this lens has autofocus. But it uses the Pentax screw drive autofocusing system. What this means is that the lens itself doesn't have a motor. Instead, the camera has its own DC motor, which powers the focusing mechanism. And since I'm adapting this lens onto my A7s, it will be completely manual focus only. Alright then, I guess that's all I have to say about this lens. Let's go shoot something with it before the sun sets. For this review, I'll be adapting this lens to my A7s with a Pentax K to Canon EF mount adapter and a Canon EF to Sony FE mount adapter. All footage will be recorded in 4K using the Atomos Ninja V external video recorder. So first, let's take a look at the bokeh. For the most part, it's pretty smooth and pleasant, truly living up to its legendary status. However, when you look at the next shot, you'll see that it gets a little rough when the scene is busy. Also, there is quite a bit of vignetting when shooting wide open. In terms of details, I would say that this lens holds up pretty good even for 4K shooting. It's able to capture plenty of details and there is good contrast. Now I've heard that this lens is prone to color fringing, but in my tests, I couldn't find any. So that's good news, I suppose. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what your needs are, it doesn't have that retro vintage look. None of the softness and dreaminess, none of the color fringing and ghosting, none of the flaws that give character to vintage lenses. Flaring is pretty well controlled, thanks to the more modern coatings and smaller front element. Even shooting directly into the light, there is very little loss of contrast. However, there is just that tiny bit of ghosting. Now it's time to see the maximum sharpness this lens can achieve. Wide open, the image appears a little bit soft. At f2.8, the softness is gone and the corners sharpen up as well. By f4, everything looks terrific. Things continue to get better at f5.6 until f8, where everything is perfect. Beyond that, I can't really see any difference. Although by f22, things gets a little soft due to diffraction. I mentioned earlier that this lens suffers from vignetting. Well, in my test, stopping the aperture down to f5.6 would clear it up completely. So in conclusion, the Pentax SMC FA31mm f1.8 Limited is a pretty good performer. I really like this lens. However, it's priced a little bit outrageous. At the time of this review, it costs almost $900 US. For that price, you can definitely get cheaper alternatives. So unless you love vintage lenses, or you are a Pentax fanboy, collector, otherwise, I can't really recommend it. Until next time, see ya! So originally, I wanted to review this lens on my GH5, but this annoying piece of metal was preventing me from mounting it on the speed booster. I could cut it off though,